In this tutorial, we will be discussing the different classes of reactions. So far, we've talked about precipitation reactions. That's when something falls out of the solution as a solid. Acid-base reactions, those produce salt and water in reactions. Gas evolution reactions, which a lot of time relates to the acid-base reactions because often it reacts with an acid. And oxidation reduction reactions, where the electrons transfer from one to the other. Combustion reactions can be included into that as well because of the fact that a lot of times with the oxidation reduction, oxygen is actually one of the components, one of the reactants, which is by definition a combustion. Alright, so we can also look at the classification of reactions by what's going on with the atoms themselves. We're going to look at 4 different types here. Notice the generic equation. We're going to talk about those at the very end. So synthesis reactions. That's when 2 things come into one. So for instance here we have sodium reacting with chlorine to produce sodium chloride. So we have 2 different things coming to a single substance at the end. Decomposition is the exact opposite of that. It's where we have a more complex compound breaking it into simpler substances. A single displacement reaction involves an element and another compound. For instance, here we have zinc reacting with copper chloride. The copper and the zinc are going to switch places. And so therefore, this molecule here is going to actually end up being coated with copper. And then we have double displacement reactions, which is very similar to the precipitation reactions that we've done already, where we have 2 compounds that are coming together, the insides and the outsides come together to form 2 different products. Alright, so let's look at the generic equations, and this is how you pinpoint them. If you have a single thing on the right hand side, you have a synthesis reaction. That's because you have multiple elements coming together or multiple compounds coming together to produce one thing. You're synthesizing or combining something. Decomposition, instead of having one thing on the right on the products, you'll have one thing on the left. You'll have one reactant, and it's going to break down into several of them. Single replacement, you have an element and a compound. The element replaces one of the other parts of the substance. So for instance here, the A is now with the C. So the B got pushed out of its way. And then double replacements, you have 2 compounds, inside, outside. So you have 2 compounds on both sides. Let's go through that again. Synthesis, you have a single thing on the right. Decomp, you have a single thing on the left. Displacement, you have an element and a compound. And a double displacement, you have 2 compounds. And that's how you identify the types of chemical reactions.